My name is Riley Clare. I've lived in the Chequamegon Bay since 2013. I'm currently a resident of the city of Ashland. Um, so there's certain parts of this section of this contract that don't really have any legal precedent. And I think if we're looking at the specifics of this issue, especially like Section G, there haven't been any contracts before between like a local government and a corporation like this. So I think we could be getting into really legally murky territory if we say yes to an agreement with Enbridge. And also, I think another really important point to bring up if we're looking at the well-being of our county in specific is if Enbridge is giving our law enforcement kind of like a free pass, there's going to be a lot more focus on there's going to be a lot more attention that law enforcement is paying to, just civil disobedience and stuff where there really isn't an issue. There often aren't any health crises. And that's going to be diverting attention from our very strapped law enforcement to actually respond to issues where they might be needed and they might be making more of a difference. There's only a limited number of folks running around the county who have Narcan, who have specific types of training. And I think we really need to look at how we're prioritizing their time and their attention. I also profoundly disagree with a corporation in general having any type of legally binding contract with our local government. It feels like it flies in the face of what we stand for just publicly, and I'm deeply concerned about the implications that an agreement could have. I want my children to be able to drink this water. What else? Yeah, I think that agreeing to a contract with the Wisconsin Counties Association, which is essentially Enbridge, would just be turning our public service into private security. That's not what they're for. If Enbridge needs private security, they can go do that on their own time. We need to be protective of the resources that we have and make sure that our county is staying focused on the residents. Thank you for your time.
Hello and good morning. My name is Bailey Kroll. I live at 1301 6th Avenue West in Ashland. First off, I want to thank you for listening to and responding to our requests at the last meeting. As a young person who is learning the ropes of local politics, I feel uplifted and truly have hope that speaking up can make change. The last meeting, I asked for an agenda item to be added to speak about our concerns about ICE and their presence in Ashland, and you listened, and that just feels really awesome. And so I just want to acknowledge that and appreciate that there is that public session at the end of this meeting. I'll be speaking more about ICE then. But I want to speak to agenda item 6A, the Wisconsin Counties Agreement. Please do not approve this agreement. What this does is that it turns our local law enforcement into the hired protectors of Enbridge. This means that our local law enforcement will be operating through non-democratically accountable funding. Local law enforcement should be protecting the people of Ashland, not protecting a Canadian company with a bad track record socially, see human trafficking, sexual assaults, and environmentally, see 29 spills and over 1 million gallons of oil and natural gas spilled. If your concern is truly public safety, think about the long-term threat to the public safety that this pipeline will cause, irreparable damage to natural and cultural resources of this region. You can say no to this funding. You can show solidarity with the people of this region and the tribes who do not want this reroute to be built. You can continue your commitment to serving and protecting the people of this region. Please do not comply with Enbridge by preemptively accepting funds for arresting protesters. Thank you.
Setting time for myself. Hello, my name is Ellie Priester, resident of Ashland since 2019. I'm here to speak about item 6A, the Wisconsin Counties Association Agreement with Enbridge. Let's call it what it is. It's with Enbridge. I urge you not to agree to this contract. As has been said, this is an intense incentivization for sheriffs and local police, because local police can also apply for these reimbursements, to focus their efforts on work they will be reimbursed for. This takes them away from our communities, pulling over dangerous drivers, responding to emergencies in our own community. I think it's important to acknowledge that the Ashland County Sheriff, as was agreed in the last meeting, their Bad Rivers contract with the sheriff was renewed. They are the people, they are the law enforcement that serve Bad Rivers community. We know that Line 5 directly harms those under their care, those of Bad River, those of all of us who live on these watersheds on Lake Superior. So what is the legacy of our county, who serves our neighboring tribes, to go into agreement with Enbridge in perpetuity? I don't know how long this contract is going to last, if signed. But this is protecting Enbridge property over people and generations to come. This will do irreparable harm, yes, to the land, but to the relations and relationship we have with Bad River. They might not sign that contract next time if we're going into agreement with Enbridge purely for financial reasons. So I ask you, what are the harms of signing this versus the pros of the funding that comes along with it? I think the funding is extremely tempting to offset law enforcement costs that are anticipated with protests of Line 5. What are the harms? Again, that will be irreparable, with people that will be here long after this pipeline is dead and gone, because it will not last forever. I urge you to not be a public government that is accepting major funding from a private and foreign corporation. Please do not sign item 6A, the county's association agreement with Enbridge for Ashland County. Thank you.
We can't hear anyone talking if they are.
Should I restart the timer or just? Okay, cool. So just to recap, Sean Van Zeelen, been here since 2017, would love some more time than this half hour for our community to speak up. I'm here to ask that the Ashland County Board refuses to accept the Wisconsin Counties Association agreement. We cannot allow our community's public safety services to be commandeered by an international corporation. Enbridge wants to pay the Ashland Sheriff's Department for essentially private use, with a half-hearted attempt to disguise this by funneling the money through the Wisconsin Counties Association. I'd like to ask what kind of precedent this sets if we hire out our public safety officers for private use. What kind of community do we want to have? One that allows our sheriff's department to be hired by an international company to protect them as they endanger the landscape? One that arrests its own county's residents for protecting the land we farm and the water we drink from outside sources that are here only for profit. This is a really important opportunity for the Ashland County Board to protect its residents and landscape, and I hope that we can each take action. Thank you.
if I'm wrong, is it Soren?
Morning. My name's Soren Beneke. I've lived in Ashland since 2013. I also want to talk about item 6A. Thanks for taking our concerns seriously and giving us a voice here. I have several issues with this contract. So I know it's commonly believed that the role of police is to enforce the law at their own discretion as sort of neutral mediators, but Enbridge is paying the sheriff's office, which by its very nature would incentivize them to give preferential treatment to Enbridge's needs over others. This is a blatant conflict of interest. It goes without saying. It would also reduce police accountability since Enbridge would be substituting public funding of police activities with their own private funding. It would remove that link of accountability to the general taxpayers to whom they're supposed to owe a primary legal and moral obligation. It's the police's duty to uphold the supreme law of the land, including the First Amendment right to protest, but companies like Enbridge have a vested interest in repressing this right, which sometimes threatens their profits. Again, there's a blatant conflict of interest here. It's dishonest to believe that a situation where Enbridge pays the sheriff to protect their private interests would not take on the character of a bribe. Yeah, again, just the concern about diverting resources from the other parts of the county towards this specific issue, and for what benefit? Where's the proof this would reduce the tax burden anyway? At least for individuals. What is the plan to pass the savings on to individual taxpayers, or would the sheriff just be getting a big outside surplus on top of their existing budget? I have more questions too. What are the limits on what Enbridge can pay? Will there be publicly available tracking on how the money gets spent? Those things were not clearly explicated in the agreement. Enbridge has a long history of these escrow accounts and these public safety agreements, and also of requesting and receiving resources that were supposed to be ineligible, according to them. This is the bare minimum of information that should be publicly available. It's extremely suspicious that Enbridge and the sheriff want to conceal information about this contract via the Section G. What do they have to hide? No matter where the money comes from, the county sheriff is still a public service. His activities should be under our purview. This should be public information. This contract, at the very least, needs more serious scrutiny and public involvement. I'm respectfully demanding you cancel this contract, or at the very least, defer it until you have publicly addressed each and every one of these questions and concerns. Thank you.
Well, he was good.
Olivia Olsen? Is Olivia Olsen? Okay. Oh, okay, those notes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is it Shia?
Good morning. My name is Shay Schackermeyer. I have lived in Ashland for 10 years. I live in Washburn right now. I want to say that there's a lot of people here for public comment, including a number of elders and folks from Bad River. And I strongly urge you to extend this public comment period until all comments are heard today. I'm here to also encourage, tell you to please not accept and go into contract with Enbridge through this cooperative agreement. The Ashland County Sheriff's Department is here to protect our communities, our residents, including Bad River. Bad River doesn't have their own police force. They rely upon the Sheriff's Department to serve and protect them. We know that a reality of pipeline projects like this is increased violence and harm towards women, including Native women and girls. Murdered and missing Indigenous women happen in communities where there are pipeline and oil industry projects. It is on our radar that the camp that was built in Marengo to house temporary workers could be a hotspot for violence against women, for women being raped, for trafficking of women. We need Ashland County sheriffs to defend our communities, to stand up for our women, for Bad River women, because this is something that happens in communities where Enbridge is. You cannot sign an agreement for Enbridge, for the sheriffs to work in cooperation with Enbridge and also expect the sheriffs to protect us. What's that going to do long-term for the trust in our community of the Sheriff's Department? I also am here today to remind you of Jason Perot. Jason is a Bad River tribal member. He was 14 when he was shot and murdered in his grandpa's front lawn in Bad River by an Ashland County Sheriff officer, deputy. I say his name today because the relationships between the Sheriff's Department and Bad River are real. This boy's life was taken, and repair needs to happen between Bad River and the Sheriff's Department to rebuild that trust. How is signing this agreement with Enbridge going to repair that trust? It's going to further degrade that relationship for generations to come. You all were elected to your positions. You have the power to say no to Enbridge and to stand for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Denise Bosak? Bosak, thank you.
My name is Denise Bosak. I've been in this area since 2011. And I'm here to speak of the possible funding that you are looking at of the Sheriff's Department. I was told that you as county board members already have your minds made up on how you are going to vote before you even hear the people's voice you represent. This may or may not be true for all of you. If it is, we voted in the wrong people to have the power to uphold our wishes, especially when in running for your seat on the board, you said you would choose what the people wanted for this community. We want our Sheriff's Department to protect us with our tax dollars. We can't even fathom why you would even consider taking the buku bucks Enbridge waves in front of you to protect them from us. Us is the people you represent. Us is the people who make up this place you live in, a community. Us is the people who want the protection from this big-ass oil company who don't care a bit about us and the environment now and for many, many years to come. Their greed for money over life has deeply clouded their judgment on what is right. For this, I feel deep sorrow. I know if we can help in healing their hearts that deep within know what's right. Maybe they should go and talk to their kids, their moms, their grandmothers, and see if they would be proud of this devastation they are inflicting on the beautiful people and this wondrous place we live. Maybe you should talk to your kids, your mom, and your grandmothers and see what they have to say about choosing to protect an oil company over the people you represent. The people who ask and need protection as they fight to save themselves and the water and the environment from harm for now and the future generations. Vote no for the money funneled down. Have the sheriff's department that the sheriff's departments would be protecting Enbridge. Save us, not them. They won't save you. When the damage is done, damage with your constituents are hurt, imprisoned, or killed. We know, you know, what happens when big money and power mix. I know that you can take your power without the money and do the right thing. Your grandmother will be proud of you when you don't let money make your choice to protect your people who put their faith in you with their vote. Take your inner power back and vote for no sheriff support for protecting Enbridge. Say yes to protect your people here in Ashland County. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. When you hit that. Okay. Okay, Kathy Smith.
Hello, my name is Kathy Smith, and I'm just going to make this really brief to give time to others. But I just want to use my voice in opposition to the agreement with the WCA or Enbridge, if we want to be more clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. What's her time limit? 35. Okay, good. Okay, you're gonna have to help me. Koki? Thank you, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Aho buju ni Anishinaabe dog, wena pashtabe indigo, makwendu demo ma Anishinaabe wa king wenja bayan, jigi bi git chigami indunjiba. Nashke butchigo da ma jawa ingyu ginebigug. Mirash gawin and gunawena megusig. Gunawena megu gawin gunawena megusimin. Ingyo ginebigug. Mirash gawin am in wendan zin in a kamigiziang nongom. Wena Pashtabe Goki, I've lived here since time immemorial. I've been here. I look around this room and I look at these supervisors here, and none of you look like me. None of you sound like me. None of you know what it's like to experience life in the way that I have, or we do. I look at our county jail and it is overwhelmingly brown. And I look at what this contract may do. Instead of over 50%, we may be at 75, 80% of us. We're already targeted. We are already, I suppose, how do you call that? Ratio, as far as ratio of population and general population and jail population goes, it's not even, and I don't think we commit more crimes than anybody else. Shay talked about my nephew, and that kind of hit me in the gut because that hurt, and there still hasn't been any reconciliation from that. I'm still real hurt. I was still suspended longer than a sheriff who killed a child for saying that a sheriff killed a child. And so if that's prior to all of this, and I've got a duty and obligation to stand up for water in Anishinaabe Quail, I'm an Anishinaabe woman, and that's part of my role. It's part of my responsibilities, and that's part of why I'm here today. And I don't like the feeling of the big target on my back by the people who already put a target on my nephew. And this target gets even bigger, and I don't like it. I'm not really happy that it would even be entertained, because here I am. I'm not a dangerous woman. I love my community. I love my people. That's all people. I love our children. I love my language. I teach my community's kids Ojibwe. Because of genocide, I'm one of very few who speak. Because of policing practices against our people, I'm one of very few who speak our language. And Anishinaabe, Ingagigid Ojibwe, Indujibwe. Mio Owen and Wewinanon. This is our sound here. And it's important to protect each other. And I'm really hoping that I can be protected by my community. I've lived here for a very long time. Miigwech.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is it Elise? Elise.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elise Cayley. I live at 1116 Lakeshore Drive East. I've lived here since 2020. Love this community, love this place, and in a surprising turn of events, I've recently become a mother, and this is absolutely the place for it. So I'd really like to speak on 6A and discuss some things that have been said. Some have said that there is no precedent for a private entity subsidizing law enforcement, and I wish that were true, but there is precedent, chilling precedent. If you look at every atrocity of the Gilded Age, from the Colorado coal massacres to the bombings of Blair Mountain, it started because law enforcement and military forces that should have been loyal to the people and the people's democratic representatives accepted money from businesses to enforce the businesses' rules, not the rules of society. There is chilling precedent. And then I was really struck by something that was said earlier by Tamara, I think it was, she was describing the beauty of standing on the coast of the mighty Baltic Sea. For, those of us like myself who are not indigenous to this area, many of our ancestors came from the shore of the Baltic Sea, my own included. And look at what the Baltic Sea is now. Part of the reason that our water is so precious, that our fish are so precious, is because people failed to maintain the Baltic Sea. It is a dead zone. Their herring fisheries have collapsed, and now they're buying roe and other fish products from us halfway around the world because of oil pollution and so on. This is very serious. Let's think about where our ancestors came from too, and how it is no longer as wonderful as the place out there is, as this lake out there is. The more that we allow the private businesses that destroy bodies of water that could sustain people for millennia more to call the shots, we'd be looking at best at another Colorado situation. I really recommend, if anyone wants to know how this is going to go, read the late George McGovern's Great Coalfield War history. It is chilling. It is chilling what went down there and how it happened, with private businesses hiring law enforcement, which ended in a situation where laws could only be enforced if a private businessman was willing to pay for it. That's not something we should be looking to implement here. Whatever the cost, whatever the alternatives, we cannot sever the link between democratic accountability and the use of force in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather? Okay. Just a couple of things. One is we're at the 30 minutes. There are some sheets here that I have that want to talk about ICE, which we will do at the end of the meeting in that area. There's a few more here that wanted to speak, but it's up to the board here if we want to extend that deadline or move on. George?
Yeah, I would move that we hear up to another 6 persons who want to speak on this topic and limit it to that time because we have an awful lot of other stuff on the agenda. We can't be here all morning, but we could hear a few more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bill?
I would like to second George's.
Okay, so there is a motion and second to allow up to 6 more. And as I said, there's several here on ICE that I will hold until we get to that discussion later. Motion's been made and second to extend for up to 6 more. I think that will get us.
What about people on Zoom?
Okay, so up to 6 speakers, and I'll keep the ICE ones separate. All those in favor of extending it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is it M. Cardenas? Thank you.
Good morning, Ashland County. My name is M. Cardenas. I live at 808 Chapel Avenue. I'll save my comments about ICE for the public session, but I have a few more items to bring up. Regarding items 6E and 6F on the agenda, I think there needs to be more from the county on the issue of fair housing. It's all well and good to reaffirm that you want to follow the law in regards to housing, and it's even nice of you to dedicate the month of March to this issue, but I do want to see actual action. So during Fair Housing Month, what resources will be dedicated to bring awareness to fair housing law, to inform tenants of their rights, or to hold landlords accountable? A proclamation about fairness is pretty flimsy without real action to hold it up. Next, regarding item 6A on the agenda, I urge you to vote no on any agreement for Enbridge to provide funds for use of the Sheriff's Department. To accept funds from Enbridge constitutes a conflict of interest. The language in this document makes it seem like the only time there will be trouble will be if protesters show up. And I worry about the possibility of special treatment towards Enbridge against protesters, and that there will now be a financial incentive to arrest protesters. I do not want our department to be held accountable to anyone but the citizens of Ashland County. I also do not trust Mr. Susienka to be an impartial review officer of funding requests, as he will be paid by the WCA, and there has been no summary of his qualifications given to justify this hire. You also say that Line 5 activities this year are likely to cause the need for public safety due to protesters, but ignore the immense harm the pipeline has already done to communities here. Accepting these funds is a statement that protecting private property matters more than keeping people safe. And if the counties are not prepared to shoulder the cost of policing protesters, maybe the counties should have thought of that before allowing Enbridge to build their pipeline on our lands. This is an opportunity to realign yourselves with the people of Ashland and say no to dirty money. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Kettering?
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I rise this morning not in opposition or in support, but in recognition. Recognition of the fact that this state has boxed our counties in. The state has set legislation to the point that our counties are beholden to Wisconsin Counties Association to bring forward a contract. And whether or not you want to pass this, if you don't pass it, the consequences are dire, and I know that. So my suggestion here is to recognize where we're at and look to what happened in Minnesota. In Minnesota, the violence was from private contractors that were providing security. Stop that. In Minnesota, hundreds of arrests wasted precious court time and precious monies because none of them were convicted. They were bogus arrests. Stop that. When we go forward, we need to have our sheriffs, like many have said, our sheriffs need to be here for us. They need to be protecting our citizens. Now, do we want to waste the money in our courts? Our court can't afford it. You know that. You know how dire it is in our court system, how we don't have the money. So where is that going to come from? Is that part of the contract to support our courts so that we can arrest people and they'll pay for the arrests? I don't think that's what we want. I don't think that's what the citizens want. Citizens want public safety. This is not our oil. This oil will never support us. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Edith? Edith?
When Bujundo Magni dog Nigani Gabo Quendish Nakas Guy Mixi and Dodem, Mushkisibi and Onjaba, Guy Nika Pay Medewan Guy Medewan Quendo. My name is Edith Leoso. I am a resident of the city of Ashland. I have been here. I own my home here, and my district representative, I think, is in District 9. Okay, and so I wanted to let you know. I appreciate what everybody's saying. But it's the same stuff, different day, right? I think that one of the things that the people here in this room, as was said earlier, is not representative of the people who live in this area, right? And so I think that without enough input from people in this area, you're not going to know what's the best for this area. And one of the things is what happens on an economic level here. And what will happen then is probably bring a lot of problems to the economy here. So if you want that, you can go ahead and sign this here. Go ahead and sign it. It will not. And I have worked with Enbridge. As a tribal historic preservation officer that I am now retired from, I have worked with them since day one in 2005. And they have never come through. When the helicopter went down on Bad River, it went down at noon. Yet our people were not notified until 1 o'clock in the morning, when we could have helped them. We could have helped them find that person who died in that helicopter. They will not be honest with you. They will feed you what you want to hear. And then they will take everything from this area and leave you to pick up the pieces. That's what happens. This entire economy is contingent on the water that's here. Right? Right. So unless you want that all to be ruined, your business is ruined, your women, and I want to bring up Williston, North Dakota. One of the first cases there wasn't a Native woman, it was a white woman running on a trail who was abducted, raped, and murdered. So if you want that done to your women, remember that. They'll start with the women in Mellon.
Thank you. I have one question. I have one more that's on an issue. The rest are ice, so we'll certainly take that up later. But Beth,
Yesterday.
Is that this or ICE?
Budgets for counties are so tight in large measure because of the state's strangulation on local rule, that it does make things look, kind of attractive. So as a people, we want to be feeling safe in our communities, and we've made contracts with people to be our law enforcement. But in some ways, that's an illusion. As the song that was being sung out there says, who keeps us safe? We really need to keep us safe. And safety starts by raising children that feel loved and safe with one another and can talk with one another and can manage their emotions. And we have to grow into adults that can manage our emotions and relate to one another and help one another, so that in reality, who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. And we all have a responsibility to keep one another safe. And if we don't, we're asking others to do it for us, and then you're leading to, we have to pay them, and things get to where they are at. Returning to the basics. To get to my second issue, and I appreciate this, I have to leave for a funeral, and so I'm not able to stay to the end to talk about the ICE issue. Very grateful for the responsiveness that we have. It's not always the case that you ask for time to give input and the body agrees. And I feel that happened with the last monthly meeting of this county board to this meeting, and it really is impressive. So thank you very much.
Okay, and Beth, before you leave, if you want to write your comments down and hand them in or whatever, we'll take those too.
I really appreciate that. I know you would. Can I speak to the ICE issue right now, or okay, I'll write them down.
Okay.
I get it. Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay, can you recognize that from there?
Sherry Couture.
Bujuani. My name is Sherry Couture, Sherry. I am a federally recognized member of the 1842 treaty. I have a few concerns. One about the water permit. How much is this water permit? In Minnesota, they took over 6 billion gallons of water. Is it more than what the average American citizen pays for their household? How much is that? And regarding about police cooperation with a foreign private company, an LLC, that didn't go too well in Minnesota. There are still pending law cases regarding police brutality, pain compliance that gave American citizens permanent damage to their body because of pain compliance. And again, we have to bring up that those are breaking international laws. If a foreign company cannot pay another country to police its people for corporate gain, country gain, a private LLC company cannot pay another country to police its people for their private gain. Over 800 arrests were taken in Minnesota. Many of them were added in dismissal. And if the sheriff and the police are busy patrolling protectors, because these are not protesters, these are protectors and defenders of our water and our lands. Who's protecting the people? So this is now a public safety concern because they're not offering to hire you guys more police to help the American citizens. They're now being paid. And the scroll account that was given to them through Minnesota, there was much abuse going on there. 2 officers sitting in a 12-bedroom B&B with an indoor pool that only in Minnesota there was such a thing. There was a lot of abuse of these escrow accounts. And again, it took away in Minnesota, the police, which the taxpayers of that city, of that state are paying the police, not a foreign company. So again, this would be breaking international laws. If a private company, if a foreign company cannot pay another country to police its people for gain, an LLC company certainly wouldn't be able to. Thank you, Miigwech.
Thank you.
Angela?
Hi. Is this me?
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Angela Wisey from Wisconsin. Right now I'm in the Milwaukee area, but very concerned about this Line 5 oil pipeline. The tunnel project in Michigan, which is irrelevant to here, but we're all connected. And then Line 5 reroute project. And this is about policing it. And let's not do that, because where the police are needed is where the taxpayers are paying them to be. Now, if this foreign entity can come in and pay them, what does that say about us as a people, as a whole people? We need to stand up and do what's right for the water, for the land, and for the surrounding citizens. I appreciate your time. Stand with Bad River. I stand with Bad River, and I appreciate protecting them as well, because right now we're all afire. The indigenous have been fighting this battle for many countless years, hundreds of years, and under the suppression of the current administration as well. We are just not going to get into that, but we need protection. And we're really counting on you guys to make the right decision. Please sleep on it tonight. Talk to your kids about it. Do they drink water? You want to protect that water. Thank you for your time.
Is that it? Okay. Okay, thank you, everybody, for those comments, and we'll get back to the ICE ones after a bit. Okay. Item number 4, public hearing, Ashland County Farmland Preservation Plan. Okay, we need to open the public hearing. Is there we need a motion? We need a motion to open a public hearing on the farmland preservation. Is there a motion? Rich?
This is Rich. I'll make a motion to open it up.
Rich Huber makes a motion. Marty?
That's Marty Vitek. I'll second.
Marty Vitek seconds it. Any questions? Any comments on before we? Okay, so there is a motion, a second, to open the public hearing on the Ashland County Farmland Preservation Plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Oh, are there any public comments on the plan?
Hearing none, we'll just keep it open until then.
Okay, we'll keep it open until the end of the meeting.
I did receive one written comment. Do you want me to read that?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. I had an email last night from Jan Penn. She's from Highbridge. She did share some concern that there's no mention of Class 1 trout streams, specifically Billy Creek and Crouse Creek, in the Ashland County Farmland Preservation Plan. I did let her know that this plan does not specifically outline all of Ashland County's natural resources. That information is found in our Land and Water Resource Management Plan, including Class 1 trout streams. This plan does reference our outstanding and exceptional resource waterways designated by the DNR. Class 1 trout streams are an additional higher level classification, but we do have all of our outstanding and exceptional resource waters referenced in this plan. Specifically, one of the water bodies that she was mentioning or asking about is identified in this plan. But I shared with her that I don't have concerns that the trout streams are not mentioned because this plan is referring to all of our farmland area that we're trying to preserve. So it's not specifically the place to identify the trout streams.
Okay. Mr. Messinger? Who drew this plan up?
This plan was originally written in 1982. It was revised in 2016, and it was written this year by the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. We did have a committee of 9 people that began meeting on April 14th. We held 8 meetings through December that involved the purpose, background. We identified the issues, opportunities, concerns with farmland. We developed and adopted goals, objectives, and actions to move this plan forward for the next 10 years. And a little bit of background about the plans. Wisconsin law does require.
Point of order. This is a public hearing, so I don't think we should be discussing the plan now until it's brought up for consideration later on.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the farmland preservation plan? Seeing none, we'll keep the hearing open. If there's any public comment later. Do we want to vote on that?
No, just move on to the next item.
Okay, so we will move on to the next item at the moment. On a regular agenda, it's item A, Wisconsin Counties Association Agreement.
Andy, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the county board. I'm Andy Phillips. I'm an attorney that represents the Wisconsin Counties Association. And I know I've spoken with many of you at various times throughout your tenure as a board supervisor. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the board this morning about an agreement that I think is important for purposes of the discussion about what happens with everything going on with Enbridge and the project. From the perspective of the Counties Association, obviously and clearly, WCA does not take a position on the Line 5 reroute. That's not something that WCA gets involved with, nor does it want to get involved with. WCA believes strongly in the voice of local government, especially county government, in those sorts of issues. And so I want to address a concept that is very important to WCA and frankly important to Ashland County, Bayfield County, and Iron County. And that is if there is an expense that is incurred attributable to the activities associated with Line 5 and the construction, that the party that bears the financial burden of that expense ought to be Enbridge or some other third party, as opposed to the taxpayers of the 3 counties. And so when WCA started thinking about the mechanism to provide for that sort of reimbursement, they worked with me, instructed me to work with the counties on a reimbursement agreement, which is what's pending before this board today. Now, I know that in other states, there have been other mechanisms that have worked to reimburse certain local agencies for the costs that they incur with a public safety response to activities going on with construction. But in my mind, I didn't think that those mechanisms were clear. I didn't think that they captured all potential expenses. And from my perspective and the perspective of WCA, we wanted to make clear that this was not going to be a burden that ought to be shouldered by the taxpayers of Ashland County, Bayfield County, or Iron County. And so again, I'm happy to answer questions about particulars within the agreement if anybody wants to discuss those particulars. But we've provided you with a memorandum that outlines at a high level the terms of the agreement, and then you've got the agreement itself before you. So again, the purpose of this arrangement is not to either support or object to the activities that are going on as it relates to construction. The purpose of this agreement is to say that if there are costs that are incurred by Ashland County as a result of the construction activities and so on, that cost be borne by somebody other than the taxpayers of Ashland County. So with that, I don't know if Mr. Grady has specific items that he would like me to address within the agreement, or if we should turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, for questions from you or the board.
Yeah. Are there any board questions? Laura?
I do have a few. So in the public safety expense reimbursement agreement, down in line G, it talks about the communications between the parties and just according to reimbursement. Now, somebody had brought up, why can the public be kept up to date on what kinds of reimbursements we get? I don't know what kind of confidentiality this is. I mean, saying that, okay, here's the inner plans of everything. I understand that there has to be some coordinating done with this, but what does this confidentiality according to the expenses have to do with being able to make plans if there are emergencies?
I think that's a great question, and that's frankly something that we've considered in the context of not only this agreement, but other situations involving certain developments and other issues that arise from time to time with county government. Number one, county government doesn't have the authority to enter into a blanket confidentiality agreement. We can't do that because we have this thing called the public records law that we have to comply with.
Yep.
There's nothing that we can contract to that would otherwise obviate or eliminate our obligation to comply with the public records law. That said, from a law enforcement and public safety perspective, there's certain information about a response, there's certain information about strategies, there's certain information about plans that ought not be revealed to the public because frankly, it's important for a public safety entity like our sheriff's office to maintain that information in confidence so they have confidence that their officers are not going to be placed in harm's way. We have confidence that other members of the public aren't going to be placed in harm's way. And this section G, which is in the recitals of the agreement, is recognition that there are certain items that aren't going to be made public out of an abundance of caution that we don't put, again, those officers and other members of the public in harm's way by revealing certain information that we ought not reveal. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that we're going to comply with public records requests and that if the information is disclosable under the public records law, it will be disclosed. But in the event that there is information that should not be made public, whether it be in the context of this agreement or otherwise, it's not going to be made public. It is the same analysis that applies to every single public records request that would come in.
Okay, so in short or not lawyer speak, are we able to update on things we get reimbursed for?
Yes.
Okay.
I try to make that very short and non-lawyer.
It was wonderful. I've heard you speak a few times. Now, I do have questions also about, because as another person brought up, there was some incidents in Minnesota. If employees that are brought into our area end up causing problems, are these reimbursable expenses?
I think it would depend upon the specific circumstances surrounding that. It's very difficult to try to provide an entire list of examples where this is reimbursable, this is not reimbursable, and so on. And so what we try to do in this agreement is to make it a very broad category of reimbursable expense. I will tell you that if an expense is incurred as a specific result of the project, that I will encourage your sheriff's office to make claim for reimbursement. And so again, we're looking at this very broadly, but it's really difficult to pinpoint specific examples.
Okay, so I'm just going to pontificate something here. Let's say 8 of the employees go to one of the bars and end up wrecking a whole bunch of stuff because those were brought in the area because of the project. Is that something that's reimbursable?
I don't know. Wrecking a whole bunch of stuff, meaning the bars stuff. I mean, that would be
I don't know, public property.
Public property. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think that's a discussion, though, that we ought to have in the event that that circumstance arises, because clearly we would say, but for the existence of this project and but for the existence of this person being there to serve the project, this would not have happened. Therefore, it's an expense attributable to the project. Therefore, we should be reimbursed. I mean, again, it's very, very fact specific in each of these circumstances, but From my position, again, I'm going to say this again, I can't say it enough. The taxpayers of Ashland County ought not bear the burden of this project. And so I want to make sure that to the extent possible, we do not shift the burden of this project to the taxpayers of Ashland County.
Okay, and then in Article 2, where is it? It says that we will do, where did I go? The first part of the second part. There's a lot of stuff here. So somewhere in Article 2, it talks about, it feels like we become quasi-private security. Is this something that I feel that needs to be a little more defined? I understand us doing certain patrols and things, and this extra burden is something that's reimbursable, but are we going to be frontline on this? Is there going to be private security brought in by the company that we may have to deal with? I'm worried about the safety of our officers. I'm worried about people who want to exercise their constitutional right in order to do their protests. You know, do I want to see things damaged? No. I would like everybody to play nice, but there's going to be those issues. But this seems like with the patrols and things that it makes us their security.
I will say this, I don't know what Enbridge's plans are as it relates to their own security and what they do as a company. I will say that the sheriff has a constitutional and statutory prerogative to enforce the law as he sees fit. And so we cannot, by contract, guarantee anything to anybody because it's up to the sheriff to decide how that law is enforced. All this does is provide a reimbursement mechanism in the event that the sheriff enforces the law in a particular circumstance, and that enforcement event arises because of the project. So this is a reimbursement agreement, not a guarantee of service, not a guarantee of a minimum amount of service, not any sort of promise to be frontline service. This is a reimbursement agreement. Again, it's up to the sheriff to determine what service is provided, and the sheriff has his own constitutional and statutory authority in that regard.
Okay.
Good. Laura's good. Okay, Liz?
I think they kind of answered my question. My question was, if this company is so big and powerful and money gridden that they could pay their own security team, but he said something about he doesn't know. You're not certain, sir, that they're going to bring their own private security. And I think Laura's question was if the private security would be a problem, you know, is that reimbursed with our county? And my other question was, there was no, what's the time limit? And it does say something about $2,000. Is there a limit on how much the taxpayers would be paying?
There's no time limit on the agreement because I would like personally this agreement to continue in perpetuity for so long as there's a possibility that we have to spend money to respond on a public safety basis to an event arising as a result of the project. So until the project is done, that could take, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it takes. We want this agreement to be there in place to provide a reimbursement mechanism. So that's number one. Number two, in terms of the security force, I indicated I was not aware of what Enbridge is going to do with its own employees as it relates to security. I'm sure they will do something. I'm just not aware what that something is. But let's remember too that a private security force does not have authority to enforce the laws, does not have authority to respond to a public safety event. And so we want to make sure that the entity that has the authority to respond, if there is cost incurred as a result of that response, that they're reimbursed for that. Because again, it's not fair to place that burden on the taxpayers of Ashland County. And so, again, this is a reimbursement agreement relating to the public safety response to any event that arises as a result of this project, period. And that's what we want to make sure is in place for so long as there is the possibility of that sort of event happening with the project.
And the next part of my question, like all our constituents are saying they would like to have, the protesters called protectors. They're protecting their rights of the land, the water. We want to be able to make sure that if they do bring their own private security, that those people will have that right long as they're not infringing on a law breaking activity. Thank you.
And just very briefly too, I fully appreciate and understand that concern. I will tell you that regardless of who may be breaking the law, whether it be on the side of the Enbridge security force or the general public, that the sheriff is going to be determining how to enforce the law. The sheriff, again, has independent authority in that regard. And so if the sheriff has to enforce the law against the private security force, for example, then we would consider that an event that arises as a result of the project, and we would seek reimbursement for that. But I think if you speak with your sheriff, the sheriff is very interested in protecting and preserving the rights of all people in Ashland County and is not necessarily going to single out anybody.
Mr. Bill?
Thank you. Has Ashland County, this is before the Ashland County Board. Has this come before the Bayfield County and Iron County boards?
Bayfield County is going to consider it tonight, and Iron County is in a couple days.
Pardon me? Okay. Okay. From reading this, a lot of this is we're talking about the sheriff having authority. Did he weigh in at all, what he feels about this?
Yeah, Chief Deputy Dawson is here to speak on how the sheriff feels, the sheriff's opinion. Dave, can you come in? You can use the microphone. Yes.
I guess the question was, how does our sheriff feel about this agreement?
I believe all three sheriffs from Ashland, Bayfield, and Iron got together and spoke on the terms and conditions. I think it was sent back and forth several times. And then I believe the corporate counsel and Mr. Andy, I forgot his, Phillips, got together and they did speak on the contract or agreement too. As far as the costs associated with it, that was our only concern with the taxpayers involved. We know that with any project that would be extended, that we know that there's going to be some costs associated with that. Our major concern is to protect the people, everyone, both sides, and that was our major concern when we were dealing with the agreement.
Were they in favor of it or not?
This agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, they continue. They continue to, all three were continuing to go in favor of the proposed language in the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Yep. I have a couple other questions. Is Enbridge limited to how much they're going to spend, or are they just what are they just throwing a blank check, or is there a limit on how much they're going to spend?
There is no limit in the agreement. There is no limit from an Enbridge funding perspective. Frankly, that was a very important point in discussions about the cost associated, potential cost associated with a public safety response. And we didn't want any limitation, again, recognizing that this is not an expense that ought to be borne by the taxpayers of the three counties. So there is no limit on that.
Okay, when I'm reading this different information that was passed out, it says that this will continue if the county board of supervisors want to limit it to, let's say, 1 year and see how it's working, and if there.
Mr. Kinney?
I got two questions, and the first one I want to follow up with what the previous board member sitting to my right mentioned. When I look at section 1, if you can clarify this, the last sentence says WCA's reimbursement obligation is limited to the funds available in the escrow account. And your previous comments a few minutes ago mentioned monthly contributions to that. So even though this language says limited to what's in escrow, is the understanding that they will make contributions to that escrow account to cover expenses as long as this project goes on?
Yes, that's the understanding. And the reason that that sentence exists is because WCA, just like the taxpayers of Ashland County, isn't going to accept the expense. WCA is not going to accept that expense either. And so WCA is going to say, we will make all money available, made available to us through the escrow available to the counties, period. And just wanted to make clear that in the event that there's not going to be money in the escrow, that's when we have a serious conversation with your administration, your sheriff's office to say, we don't have any more money in the escrow. So we got to figure out how we're going to deal with this. But I'm not concerned about the money being available in the escrow right now. We know it's there.
So then my second question, if I look at the introduction, the second line says that this is being funded by a third party. The fourth line mentions Enbridge.
Mm-hmm.
In the interest of transparency and trying to build trust, is there any reason that we can't change third party to the party that the public, at least, and I suspect the board too, believes is the third party making this funding?
Yeah, and that was, you bring up a very good point, and I struggle with that, frankly, because right now we know the source of those payments is Enbridge. Frankly, down the line, could there be some other party contributing to that? Maybe, I don't know. And I didn't want to unnecessarily limit us to Enbridge on that one. But you're right, in the interest of transparency, I don't think it takes anybody a lot of time to figure out that Enbridge is the one that's funding that escrow. Again, for our purposes, we wanted the money available. We didn't care where it came from. We just knew that it couldn't come from the taxpayers of the 3 counties. As long as the money's available, we don't care about source, and that money's available to, again, reimburse for the response to any issues that arise from a public safety perspective.
So in Minnesota with line 3 and Enbridge, also by Minnesota state law, from what I've read, Enbridge was required to pay into a fund for a similar process that we're looking at here. So they specifically are very open, transparent who's making that contribution. So when we get to consideration of this agreement, could we change third party to Enbridge or whatever other legal words, Enbridge and any other possible parties that would contribute, just in the interest of transparency and trust?
I think that would be up to you, and I can't speak for the WCA as to whether that's acceptable. They haven't told me if that's okay, but if that's what the county board says and determines needs to be in this agreement, I will certainly go back to WCA and have a good conversation with them about why that was needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
And let me just add too, in terms of the Minnesota process, my understanding, again, I'm not a Minnesota lawyer, I wasn't involved in the Minnesota process, but that was mandated by their, I forget which agency of state government mandated to have a reimbursement mechanism. It wasn't by contract, it was by regulation, which is a lot different in my mind. I wanted a contract because I like our ability as counties to dictate terms of the contract as opposed to the regulatory authority having some sort of say in this, if you will.
This is Chairman Murdock. The third party thing can get us off on a tangent, but I'll say this. Enbridge is not doing this pipeline. Everybody that's doing a pipeline is a third party. They have contractors clearing the forest. They have contractors burying the pipe. It's all private contractors beyond Enbridge. Enbridge is kind of like the master holder of the deed. But that's why I agree that at some point in time, there may be a contractor on this project that would be asked to donate or put money into that escrow. I don't know that for sure, but I do know that everything on this pipeline is subcontracted. Mr. Kinney?
Well, I'm no attorney, but I see third party in the beginning And if I wanted to go after them, I don't know who that is because no one's named. And then the language at the end of one says the funds are limited to what's an escrow account. And we don't have an understanding of what that is. So we don't have a name for who the third party is. And we don't have an amount for what's an escrow, but we're being asked to approve this.
Mr. Kinney, Michael's Corporation is the contractor who's doing the actual construction. Northern Clearing is clearing out all the trees and doing the brushing and grubbing. And then again, Michael's Corporation will be putting in the actual pipeline.
But who's putting the money into escrow? That's the question. Because it says a third party, we don't identify the party, and we have no numbers for the amount. So maybe we're not done with this topic on approving it yet.
Andy, would you like to answer that question?
Just very briefly, this is again a reimbursement agreement, and source of the funds, from my perspective, is less important than ensuring that the funds are available to reimburse Ashland County. That's number one. Number two, in terms of rights of the county against the entity that would be funding the escrow, as a county, we don't really have a right to go after somebody for a public safety response in all circumstances. Think about an ambulance going to a home, or a sheriff's office or a sheriff's deputy responding to a call. We don't in all circumstances turn around and charge the person for that response. What we are doing here is providing a mechanism that does provide reimbursement for a specific response related to the project. And so for purposes of this agreement, all this does is provide the reimbursement vehicle, if you will, on how Ashland County is going to get reimbursed for those expenses. And so this doesn't create a contract between the county and Enbridge. It doesn't create a contract between the county and any other third party. It creates a contract between the county and WCA that says, WCA, you're holding on to some money in escrow that's going to reimburse us for these expenses. We'd like some of that money because we've incurred XYZ expenses and we want to be reimbursed. That's what this contract does.
Laura?
One last question. Okay, so this is only reimbursement for public safety expenses. So I suppose we would, if there was some kind of ecological issue, then we're going to have to go through state channels, et cetera, et cetera.
When we talk about ecological or environmental, I think we get into DNR territory. We get into perhaps DATCAP territory.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that would be a separate issue. Public safety, we intended to make it broad to say it involves not only law enforcement, but also fire, EMS, and things like that. But we did not intend to include ecological, environmental type issues.
Okie doke, thank you.
Mr. Metzinger?
How soon is the actual construction going to start? If it goes through, how soon is it going to start? I know that some of the preliminary work has been started, but the digging and
That's a good question. I don't know what their plans are and when that would start. The actual work would start. I know there was a lawsuit filed this week, challenging the determination from DNR to allow this to proceed. It was actually from an administrative law judge approving the DNR permit. And so I think it depends on the outcome of that litigation, because if there is a court order saying that this cannot proceed, they can't proceed. But if there is no court order prohibiting them from proceeding, I think they're going to proceed. So my understanding is very soon. I just don't know what that very soon means, frankly.
Okay, from the board, any other questions? Okay, excuse me. If no other questions, then we're going to move to the regular agenda, discussion action items. And the first item is 6A, Wisconsin Counties Association Agreement. Do Do we have a motion?
Nobody's.
Mr. Kenny.
This is to get it on the floor, motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Kenny makes a motion to approve. Laura?
This is Laura, I'll second it.
Laura seconds it. Okay. There is a motion and a second on the floor to approve the Wisconsin Counties Association Agreement. Any other questions? Mr. Kenny?
I'm on the finance committee, so I've been thinking about the possibility of the costs for the sheriff's department if it gets rebuilt through the existing path or we go around. I've had time to think about that cost, how it fits into the budget. From what I've read on pipelines and other places, it would not be surprising if we burned through our savings and had a very significant raise in taxes to cover this if what we have here parallels in other places. I appreciate everybody that spoke. I wish there was an alternative to the consequences for this. What the attorney said, I agree with that, and I appreciate him being so blunt with me at the end. We have no right to get funding for law enforcement protection here. The fact that there's going to be an escrow account is something that we have an opportunity for, but we don't have a right to. The sheriff's department is legally elected. He's got his duties. We expect him, the DA, and the judge to do their jobs also. In Minnesota, in the agreement they had there, the cost for prosecution were not reimbursed, and depending on where you're at, there's other things that don't get reimbursed. And so there's going to be more to it than what's in this agreement and what covers it. So the sheriff's going to have a job to do. And Mr. Kettering, I appreciate you speaking. I've been friends with Mr. Kettering a long time. I talked to him last week about this. If we don't have the sheriff there doing his job in the way that we know he'll do it appropriately, the alternative is others who are not trained. In Minnesota, with the funding, they spent $1.3 million on training. We know in this country it's important to have law enforcement that's properly trained because we know the consequences when it's not properly trained. So we have a sheriff's department that can have a presence there. We're going to have to because he's obligated to have a presence there. There's going to be a cost associated with that. We're also going to have to do everything else we should do as a county to cover everything. And depending upon how many people come up here to protect the environment, there may be others coming out here. In Minnesota, the entity that received the single largest amount of money for protection was actually the DNR. They had to pull in other people beyond local law enforcement for that. And so it's a really emotional issue for a lot of people, you know, myself included. But the alternative of not approving this leaves us, I think, in a less desirable place than approving it, both for the people, so that we have trained law enforcement there, so we have accountability. Hopefully for the environment, it's better than it otherwise would be. My understanding is some of the people out there are going to be there to try to document what's happening as much as possible to protect the environment as much as possible. The biggest concern may be breaching the aquifer and the consequences that go with that. So approving it, I think, is better than not. The core issue here is really we use fossil fuels. We've had a cold winter. Most people drive a car. We use fossil fuels yet. If we want pipelines to go away, we need to be totally off fossil fuels, but we're not off fossil fuels. And so that's the reality of where we are as a society. We still use that. And as a county, for those of you that don't know this, we have no vote on this pipeline as far as whether it's a reroute through the reservation or removed. We simply have no vote on that. The Sheriff's Department does have a legal obligation to provide the duties out there. Enbridge does not pay taxes here that would cover that level of support from the Sheriff's Department to try to protect things and make sure things go as they are, should be. And so it's better to approve than not approve, I believe, both for the people and the environment and certainly the budget. But environmentally, that's a tough thing. I've got 210 acres. I grew up on a farm. I did a wetland restoration a few years ago. You know, so environmentally, it's just the reality of it. So I wish I could say something different on that, but.
Mr. Passay?
Okay, this is a really, really bad idea. There's no way that a private entity should be required or asked or agree to funding the law enforcement obligations of the local and state government. There's a red line between those two. To be impartial, the law must always be enforced solely by the taxpayer-funded government. So we will bear this burden, and it will be painful, but it is a burden of honor for this area. The tribe, the Bed River tribe, is bearing a burden of honor by turning down something like $80 million to prevent that pipeline from going through their property. But it's a function of local and state government. The taxpayers must bear this cost. It will be painful. If we can't handle it as a county, we need to go to the state and make it an issue with the governor.
Liz?
I echo George Bassay's comments completely, the burden of honor. I'm very sickened that we have to, that our Anishinaabe people have to fight every day of their lives for this. This is a bully. And how do you respond to a bully? You have to stand up. You have to say no, no more. We cannot drink oil. We want our land safe and sound. We want our people to be protected. We have to say no to this agreement.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the Wisconsin Counties Association agreement.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes, we can do a roll call vote. I just, before we do the roll call vote, I'll say this. I am not going to allow the Sheriff's Department to put that burden on the taxpayers. It is totally unfair. This is going to be not thousands of dollars, but it potentially could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there is no way with what's going on in our county that we can approve tax increases for that. I'm sorry, but that's, I don't disagree with everything that's been said about protecting the land and that's not in our prerogative to you. We didn't approve the pipeline. The state and other people did. So I'm just stating from my idea, there's no way we can accept that burden of that kind of money on it. We barely make our budget now. There's just no way we can put hundreds of thousands of dollars in law enforcement costs or emergency assistance costs onto the taxpayer. So having said that, if no other questions, Heather?
Negro.
I have to vote aye on this. We already come short on services. I can't let them put this burden back on people too.
Metzinger.
I lived here my entire life. And I'm going to reluctantly say yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Hufall, Frantic,
No.
Wilharm,
No.
Stendor,
Abstain.
Reamer,
No.
Busse,
No?
Vitek,
Yes.
Huber,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Ader,
Yes.
Mindell,
No.
Murdig,
Yes.
Ellefson, oh, I'm sorry. Trudeau.
Yes.
I was anxious to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 yes, 7 no.
Okay, thank you.
And 1 abstain.
Okay, yeah, motion agreed to 10-7. Okay, we need a motion to approve the January 27th, 2026 County Board minutes. Oh, hold on one second.
Andy, thank you very much for being here.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes.
Ron will
Ron,
make a motion that we approve the January 27th, 2026 minutes.
is there a second? Mr. Huber,
This is Rich. I'll second it.
second. Any changes, corrections, or deletions on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Resolution R 02-2026-1530, Governmental Responsibility Resolution for Runoff Management Grant. Do we have some updated?
No, I'm just telling you.
Oh,
Not to say anything.
He doesn't want me to speak.
She doesn't need to.
okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution for governmental responsibility resolution for runoff management grant? Mr. Kinney,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Passay seconds it. Questions? All those in favor of approving that resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Approve 2025-2035 farmland preservation plan. Is there a motion?
Excuse me. Mary Jo, is there a specific motion that we should make?
Yes, I put it in the packet. Basically, motion to approve the farmland preservation plan as proposed.
Okay. Mr. Vitek? Marty Vitek makes a motion to approve. Blake seconds it. Questions? Mr. Passay made a motion to make a change in that area. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that. Frantic.
Liz Frantic seconds it. Discussion? All those in favor of making that change, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Now, with that change, can we have a new motion to approve that as changed? Mr.
Motion to
Vitek?
approve the amended plan.
Okay, and second by Mr. Passay. I gave you the first, Marty. So Marty makes a motion. Marty and Mr. Passay seconded it. Mr. Kinney?
On the page numbered 15 in the document, it includes Nortrax, which was bought out by McCoy Construction in 2018. And then it includes Deer Creek Seed, which was bought out by Lacrosse Seed in 2022. They still have the Deer Creek side down on Sanborn Avenue. I was there last fall and got some seed, but they're now Lacrosse Seed and they're phasing out of that name of Deer Creek Seed since 2022.
Mr. Kinney, would you like to say and its add and its successors onto it? For the corporation's successors? Because it could be another company that buys out later.
Well, it could be true for any of the businesses listed.
Yeah.
We do have about 24 businesses identified on that page. So any of those names could change in the revision in the next 10 years. But I can correct this for this version.
Would you like to include and the business's successors? That way you cover everybody?
I'm not sure that's how, there's just a list of businesses for reference there, and these two have changed names from being bought out. But all of them could be bought out or change or go out of business. So that's all.
Okay.
Liz?
Yes, I just find it really ironic that we're going to vote on a plan. And goal number 2A, increase collaboration with local and regional organizations with the Bad River tribal government and other tribal entities, when some of us just voted for something that's going to be, I mean, yes, we didn't vote for the pipeline, but we're voting for per se to continue that project. And our natural resource is our water, our land. And it should be farmland and tribal land, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, Mr. Metzinger?
Would you repeat the amendment?
The amendment was to strike the first sentence of the executive summary and the first sentence of the introduction of chapter 1, which reads, I guess I could read it back to you again. Go to the beginning of the plan here. Okay, so that sentence is, I deem to be subjective and biased to the reading of the plan, which ought to be seen in an objective fashion. The sentence reads as follows. Farmland across the nation is disappearing at an alarming rate. So just the word alarming, you can subjectively think that's the case, but there'll be people that disagree with you. And once it is gone, it is lost forever. Another provocative statement, which some people think is true and others will disagree with you. So I think it's in our best interest to delete that sentence from the plan, and just, it reads very well, laying out the situation without that sentence.
Okay, so delete the first sentence in that paragraph.
So that was the amendment that was approved, right?
Right. Okay. Everybody good with that? Now, what about these businesses? Are we just leaving that list and change it as needed?
I will correct the 2 name changes that Pat identified.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Okay, so now we're voting on the changed farmland preservation plan. Any other questions? Were you getting ready to vote or just, oh, okay. Just checking. Okay, all those in favor of approving the county farmland preservation plan as changed, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Okay, proclamation for Ashland County Fair Housing Proclamation, item E. Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry, Ron.
Ron will make a motion, we approve it.
Ron makes a motion to approve. Dick Poofall seconds it. Any questions? Oh, Blake? Yes.
So just to go back to one of the public comments around the fair housing, what are we doing as a county? As because I know we have this as a proclamation, but what in here, what are we doing as a county to try to promote that? And that's just a high level question. Maybe somebody knows.
The Fair Housing Proclamation.
You know, a lot of that's out of our control, Mr. Ellison. I mean, it's really under city, towns, and villages. We did cooperate with the city and the new housing development on Beezer. And I would hope we continue to do that. I do know that the legislature just passed a new TIF bill that says you can do residential only TIFs. So hopefully that will spur more development in the county.
Any other questions? Oh, Liz, sorry.
Yes, I have a question about fair housing as a concern to people that possibly have a criminal record, but show signs like within a year or two of rehab and everything. And in our area, they're always discriminated. There's homeless people right now that some of them probably will never be included even in our Fair Housing Act because of their criminal status. They might have committed a crime 5 years ago and they'll be sitting on the streets for 5 years. How are we gonna increase their ways to get into fair housing? Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Heather, remind me, do we have a motion? Yes. Good, thank you.
I do have one more question. These proclamations, what committee did they come out of?
They were put up by myself in the chair. They're a requirement for our CDBG grant.
Okay, then there's at least a purpose.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second to approve the proclamation of Fair Housing Month. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item G, Resolution R02-2026-1531, resolution designating the week of April 20th through April 24th, 2026 as Work Zone Safety Awareness Week in Ashland County. Oh, sorry.
That was for 6E. You skipped 6F. They're two separate ones.
You're correct. Thank you, Heather. Okay, ignore what I said. Now we'll go to item F. No. Yes, okay, sorry.
Fair housing.
Fair Housing Month. Is there a motion to approve the Fair Housing Month? Mr. Huber.
This is Rich. I'll make that motion.
Rich makes a motion. Is there a second? Tom Reamer seconds it. Questions? Mr. Messinger.
What does this actually do?
It's a requirement for the CDBG grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I jumped
So
in.
just a reminder now, the CDBG grant was what we took last year at the county board so that they could build that hotel on the front end of Ashland. Is that correct?
We already did the Fair Housing Month for that one. This is for the planning grant. So there's two CDBG grants, one for the homeless shelter and one for our planning. So this is for the planning one. And every time we take a CDBG grant, we're going to have to do the exact same thing.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded to approve the proclamation for Fair Housing Month. Mr. Bezay?
Okay, so although I firmly support the first proclamation, which we just approved, my reading of the residents that I represent, that the wording of this second resolution on Fair Housing Month edges into the world of the culture disagreement. And I think some of the people would just shrug their shoulders and say they don't care. There are others would read this language, and as property owners, they would be uncomfortable. and others would say it's a really good thing. But in that, edges into the cultural divisiveness of which we have way too much already. I'm going to vote against this.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Metzinger?
If there's opposition, I suggest we do a roll call vote.
Perfectly fine with me. Okay. Roll call vote.
Metzinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Hufall,
Yes.
Brannick,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Yes.
Spendor, Reamer,
Yes.
Busse,
No.
Vitek,
Yes.
Huber,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Ader,
Yes.
Mindell,
Yes.
Murdig,
Yes.
Ellefson, Trudeau,
Yes.
Negro,
Yes.
17 yes. One no.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to G, Resolution R02, 2026-1531, resolution designating the week of April 20th through April 24th, 2026 as Work Zone Safety Awareness Week in Ashland County. Your motion? Blake makes the motion. Rich? Dick Bufall seconds. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the resolution G, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. H, High Bridge Post Office ground lease. Marty?
The lease.
Is there a second, Ron?
Ron Stendrel, second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the High Bridge Post Office ground lease. Just a little bit of background. The Highway Committee yesterday approved the new lease. It's a 25-year lease guaranteed for 10. As soon as they moved this current septic that was put in, the post office objected to it. They're paying us $5,000 to move that. The fourth month of the contract, then they will start making their payments. So we'll be paid for at least 10 years and it can go on to the 25. So, Mr. Messinger?
Matt Erickson is on the line if there's any questions for him. He's a highway commissioner. Matt? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So if anybody has any questions for Matt, I think he's done a very good job working with the post office.
I don't have a question for Matt, but is that what's changed on this agreement compared to what we agreed to about a year ago, I think?
Yeah, they switched spots. So originally they wanted the south spot on, the driveway of the highway goes in the middle. Originally wanted the south spot, now they want the north spot. And I do agree with Mr. Messer. Matt has done a great job on this. So thank you, Matt.
The big holdup is they wanted to move the septic system. The post office was not comfortable where it is. And so we agreed to move the septic system as soon as the weather changes.
Right, and as I said, they will pay that cost of moving it. They wanted parking on that side apparently, so more parking or whatever. Any other questions of Matt, Laura, or any questions?
Matt, Laura. So the $30,000 that we had eaten before, is that recouped in any of this?
It wasn't $30,000, was more like 5 to 10,000, and the post office is paying us for moving the septic, and then the free rent that they had, they reduced. So we basically are recovering our costs. And again, thanks, Matt.
Basically, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have the High Bridge Post Office ground lease. Motion is second and made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution.
Gary,
Sorry.
I just wanted to thank everybody because now I can get my mail on time.
Okay. Resolution R02 2026 1532 Transportation Resolution. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, move it forward.
Mr. Poofall makes a motion. Is there a second?
Ron Stender will second.
Ron Sender seconds it. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the transportation resolution, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. J, approve Ashland County Survey review fee schedule. Is there a motion? Mr. Kinney?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I can second it.
Mr. Ader seconds it. Questions? Heather, does Mr. Metzinger exceeded his question limit?
Well, this is the place for questions. So who came up with this amendment?
Zoning.
Or is the zoning administrator? Go ahead.
Yes, we talked about this annually now. I'm asking they bring the fee schedules in. So at the last zoning meeting, we went through those. And she did quite a bit of work in the background and verify. So we brought some up that were too low. So yes, we review these annually.
Thank you, Mr. Metzinger. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the county survey review schedule, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approve Ashland County Land Information Data Fee Schedule. Is there a motion? Mr. Vitek? Mr. Ader?
I'll second that too.
Second by Mr. Ader. Questions? Mr. Metzinger?
It's the same answer Mr. Ellison gave you.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve the Ashland County Land Information Data Fee Schedule. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Resolution R 02-2026-1533, resolution in support of Ashland County's request for congressionally directed spending to replace the emergency service wind sled. Is there, Liz?
Frantic, I'll approve the resolution so we can get Paul here on time for a meeting.
I'll second it.
Yeah, it's a different one, but thank you, Liz. Second? Mr. Poofall? Do you second it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Poole seconds it. Any questions? Just a comment, everybody's probably heard this, but years ago when the first wind sled was asked for to Congress, they listed it as an ice angel, and Congress said no, because they weren't going to build any sculptures out of ice. So Representative Obie at that time took it back and told them, no, we're talking about a wind sled, and we finally got approval, but the wind sled is getting past its usable life, so it's something that we should start looking at. Okay, so the motion's been made and second to approve that resolution for the emergency service wind sled. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administrator.
I think we covered everything during the meeting that I would cover in my updates. I mean, this is what this whole Enbridge thing is what I've been up to, so.
Okay, just a couple of things that for a point of information, and Dan can take it and bring it back to us. We need to have some more information on actually legally who owns the Hudson Bay Dam. If the state's saying we do, or we say they do, we need to clarify that legally. Because
The DNR unequivocally states that we own the dam.
we might want to do some background because this
You know,
can get to be an expensive proposition if we own it.
We have done some background and there's no proof that we don't own the dam.
Okay, so when that discussion comes up in future meetings, we want to discuss that because that potentially,
It's $100,000 problem, and the residents on Spider Lake know that they're going to be special assessed for all the work that's done on that.
right?
And I did check with corporate counsel, well, actually several corporate councils, and we do have the right to special assess those residents, and they are expecting it.
Okay, Mr. Kinney?
Well, the other issue with that, we talked about this on zoning last week, but then 5 years ago too. The other issue is, do we have the right to leave the dam at the height it is? Because 5, 6 years ago, the DNR wanted us to take it down from the current height down about 20 inches or so, I believe. So we want to leave it at the height because that's what the residents want to maintain Spider and Muckwell Lake. So we want in writing authority to leave it at that height from someone in the DNR that has the authority to say we can leave it that way. So that can't be contested in the future either. Because if we're going to spend money doing a floodplain analysis, we want to know that we can leave it at that height.
I haven't signed the contract yet with the engineer, and I'm waiting to hear from the DNR specifically about that.
Yeah. Mr. Metzger? The dam is a wooden dam and is located in the town of Marengo, but it affects the people in the town of Gordon, where the lake is. So if the dam goes, all these people in the town of Gordon that have water frontage, it's going to really shrink it. And so that was the importance of keeping this dam, and that's why they would special assess them. This has been going on for at least 10 years as far as ownership, because I checked the records years ago and found out if there was any easements or actual deeds when they constructed this dam, and we could not find anything. And we checked the county board minutes, I think, also, and there was nothing that we could find.
Yeah, the DNR states that county has done repairs and work on the dam in the past, therefore we own the dam. So
And just a good thing is we've hired somebody now that's gonna fix it. We have a local contractor who's gonna fix it. The county is gonna pay and then they're gonna special assess. So we all should be okay with the outcome. We're gonna do the right thing. It just took 10 years too long.
Good, thank you.
Matt's crew put the road into it already, so the ball's already kind of rolling.
Okay, so that was just a point of information. I have one other one just for the board to realize what will happen is the executive committee at some point here shortly will do Dan's review. And what I'd like to do is similar to what we tried to do last time, is get a survey sent out to all the board members. So the board members anonymously can report back, like a monkey survey or something where I don't know or anybody else doesn't know how we commented, but we get the comments on Dan's performance. And so we will be working on that. Okay. Oh, yes, thank you. I have to say one other thing. Be really careful. Committee members, when you're in a meeting, whether it's this room or outside, highway, forestry, wherever anybody meets, do not specifically talk about anything that you would be afraid for somebody else to hear. If you're going to sit in a meeting and that Zoom is on, the volume is on. I was on my way to Milwaukee a month or so ago, listening in on a committee meeting 10 minutes before the meeting started, and I heard everything that was said. The problem with that is there was 6, 7 people in the audience that could hear obviously what was being said. And I've done it on multiple meetings. Now, yesterday at the highway committee, we actually muted that so that it couldn't happen. Because if you're going to sit in a meeting and say, boy, that Gary is an SOB, which could be true, but what I'm concerned about is the public, like we have all the people online. So be careful before the meeting actually starts. It's not recorded, but anybody in the room or online can hear you. So please, if you want to call me that, come to me, I can take it. But I'm just using that as an example because on the way there, I heard some comments being made about something. And I thought there were like 5, 6 people in the room with everybody. So just be aware that those meetings, once that computer's on and somebody zooms in, they can hear you. So just a cautionary tale. Laura?
Not that anybody shouldn't watch what they say, but we could have a process where people are let into a waiting room, and then when the meeting's going to be started, then let them into the official room. So
Yep.
it's a process thing on our part too.
Good. Thank you, Laura. Okay, that's enough of me hitting the fan. Anybody else for Laura?
I have a written nutrition update for everybody. We have sites up and running in Glidden and Butternut. I have a visit this week in Mellon that we should be able to solidify, and Ashland is still my hard spot, but we're gonna start having breakfasts on a couple of Fridays a month to try to fill that because it's an easier price point and an easier meal to get together, because I'm running out of places to have different meals from, and I just can't find anybody to cover what we need in Ashland. So it is all in here. It's also up on our website, and it is being told to people and released at each one of the sites. So
Yeah, and I want to just say thank you from the people of Butternut and Glidden, because I've heard positive thoughts that they finally have a site or sites, both places that they can choose from.
and they're both 2 days a week. They do overlap, so it's at Lena's Bar and Grill in Glidden, and that's Tuesday and Wednesday, because on Tuesday she has tacos, so it's nice to have something a little different, a little special. The special menus are online. And then Jen at Jen's Butternut Cafe, she's got Wednesday, Thursday. So it does give, and I do get people that go to both the Glidden one and the Butternut one. So they've got a couple of different choices. There's longer hours. So that way, if somebody's got a doctor's appointment, it gives them flexibility, and they've got choice. There's 13 different things on the Butternut menu with, and I want to caveat that because the first 4 breakfasts that are on that menu, you have about 6 different choices. So there's more than 13 different choices. It's a little more limited at Lena's, but she makes some darn good food and people like it. We've gotten new people. We've had, of course, there's a couple of people that are upset yet, but this helps us keep our costs under control, and it also gives our seniors, which was the biggest thing before this with traditional sites, is people said, well, I don't like having to come here between 11:30 and 12:30 and I don't get a choice, and what can we do about this? So now there's choice, and now there's also extended hours. So it's a positive thing. The food is fresh, and it all meets the USDA requirements. So
Thank you, Laura. Mr. Metzinger.
Can we possibly get a quarterly report and kind of specifically say how much it's actually being used, like how many meals are being done? Is that possible quarterly?
I can definitely do that. I was going to talk with Dan also about being on the agenda in March for just as the agency. So that way we can actually talk through all the programs that we do, because the meals program is a bigger piece of it. Because so in December, just in our home delivered in Ashland, we did 628 meals. So that's just our Ashland routes. So with everything all together, it's quite a bit more. I have no problem giving you guys, I will even print something up so you have something quarterly for that, to keep an idea on that. And I will also do another update like this as I make it through these next few meetings. Hopefully it'll all be back to at least some service everywhere.
Liz?
Yes, I just wanted members of the public and we know with the county board that the funding for the drug court program was rescinded. Unfortunately, we have members of our society that are gonna need uplifting. I believe that there's a group that the county has the courthouse knows who these individuals are, and they are trying to support them as much as it can. But us as a community need to, lift these people up. If you know who they are, please remember they are brothers and sisters, they're mothers and fathers. They're affected by a terrible addiction, and they need our help. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, any other comments? Mr. Bill? Mr. Passay?
Yeah, before taking a break, I think we should close the public hearing on farmland preservation.
Okay.
I would move to do so.
Mr. Passay moves to close the public hearing on farmland preservation. Is there a second? Mr. Mindell? Mindell. I'm copying. Sorry about that, Dave. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to close. Mr. Mindell. Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And hearing that somebody needs a 5-minute break, we'll do 5 minutes, and we're going to come back for the public hearing on the ice. Thank you. Stand up. Okay, we're going to have a public session regarding concerns about federal law enforcement. There'll be a 3-minute time limit per person. Unlike public comment, the board may choose to respond to the public. Board responses are limited to 3 minutes per board member. Each board member may only speak twice on that item. So, in no particular order, Bailey Kroll. It will be. Good.
Hello, my name is Bailey Kroll. I live in Ashland. I wrote you all an email last week with all of the same information in there. I'm going to speak to it again and elaborate on a few of the points. So just for when I'm talking about ICE, I also mean ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, Department of Homeland Security, and other federal immigration agents. I am asking you to prohibit the Sheriff's Department from renting out space in the county jail to ICE. Douglas County has been doing this, unfortunately. Gogebic County just decided to not do this. 2, please prohibit Ashland County from participating in the 287G program. I linked that in the email to you all. These are agreements that are voluntary and they require local consent. There is no additional funding provided with these agreements. Potential language you could use in a statement or policy is Ashland County Sheriff Department will refrain from entering into 287G agreements as they are not consistent with furthering the department's law enforcement philosophy. That's language taken directly from Madison's policy. 3, prohibit Ashland County Sheriff deputies and officials from assisting ICE in the identification, location, detainment, or processing of individuals in our community. We saw this at the Ashland Family Restaurant raid in December with an APD officer. I know that's the city council. I've also been going to their meetings to try and push this policy with APD. 4, prohibit Ashland County from sharing the names and information of foreign-born individuals in our county jail with ICE. Officers can ask for identification without asking for immigration status, just in general. 5, prohibit federal immigration agents into the Ashland County Jail without a judicial warrant. So judicial warrant versus an administrative warrant. An administrative warrant is just a form that ICE has. In APD's current policy, again, I know y'all are different jurisdictions, but they have a lot of probable cause and reasonable suspicion in order for an APD officer to help ICE. And pretty much you could justify that an administrative warrant by ICE is probable cause to assist in an ICE abduction. So I think that's important to really like, a judicial warrant is like legal, administrative warrant is not, despite what ICE is trying to do. 6, require the Ashland County Sheriff's Department to deny all requests to hold suspected known citizens in the jail on behalf of ICE. 7, prohibit the use of all county property as the basis for administrative, logistical, or staging operations by ICE. ICE does not make communities safer. As we've seen in Minneapolis, they only make situations more dangerous. They are untrained, masked, and aggressive. When presented with a valid judicial warrant, yes, there is a legal procedure of compliance, but we cannot become complicit in ICE's aggressive and illegal tactics. I would love to see the Ashland County adopt all of these policies, and we'd be happy to help you in doing so. Thank you.
If we were to adopt these policies that you're recommending,
Point of
who
order.
would enforce
Point of
them?
order. It's public comment.
No, the agenda item
it's-
specifically
It's a
states
whole
that
year.
the
Okay.
board can respond.
All right.
So if we were to adopt these policies, who would enforce them? Since the sheriff's department is our law enforcement agency, and what are the punishments for violation of these policies?
Okay, thank you. I don't know all this like legal aspect of it. I'm just trying to communicate, like, just as a citizen, I would love for this to happen. I don't know what all those like, who is accountable to who and all that sort of thing. So I would love input or ideas from you all. Mhm.
What's that? Yeah.
So Bailey, first, thank you for coming and talking to
I-
us.
I do have a question for her.
Just
Yeah,
say it.
yeah, I just want to state some basic facts first. One, the sheriff has not signed a 287G agreement, and he doesn't plan to.
Awesome.
Two, we do not, and Chief Deputy Dawson, want to listen, make sure I don't misspeak for the sheriff. The sheriff will not keep anybody in jail longer than we're legally allowed to. So we're not going to set ourselves up for a civil rights lawsuit, basically. Two, we will not assist with administrative warrants. Only warrants signed by a federal judge, where the probable cause is shown to do so. And as a more of a constitutional item, counties are not like cities. In cities, the mayor has very direct control over the police force. In counties, the sheriff is a constitutional officer to himself. And we can, at this county board, cannot tell the sheriff how to conduct law enforcement. We don't have the constitutional right to do that. So the sheriff conducts law enforcement as the sheriff feels appropriate. The county board can say this, they can say that, but in the end, we don't have the authority in this room to tell the sheriff how to conduct law enforcement. The sheriff, only the sheriff can determine that, and the sheriff is answerable to the people. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that this county board does not have the authority to tell the sheriff how to do anything. So,
Laura?
I want to caveat that because we rule by policy, and we as a county can do policies to guide some of those decisions.
yes, we can, and our ultimate power is the power of the purse. That's how the only real control we have over an elected sheriff. And there are Department of Justice rulings out there that we can
I know,
point to.
I've looked them up.
So I know you have. But the reality is we can't tell the sheriff how to do much of anything. So I just why he's not going to help ICE. He's not going to not help. He's going to do it if there's a judicial warrant, and every police force in the country will do that because there is probable cause established with the judge. So I just want everybody to know that before you speak. So we're mostly on your side.
Mr. Metzinger?
Are you going to address the Bayfield and Iron County boards also, seeing their meeting today, or is this just an Ashland County issue?
As a resident of Ashland County and City of Ashland, I'm prioritizing attending the Ashland City Council meeting tonight, which is at the same time as the Bayfield County Board meeting.
But is anybody with your similar views going to do that?
I think so. I'm not certain. It's just kind of like people show up who shows up, but I believe that there are people that feel similarly to me that are also attending those meetings and speaking.
Mr. Metzinger, neither the city nor Bayfield County put such an item on the agenda. So, no, they've not put any of this kind of item on the agenda.
And I guess just to speak to your, like, the sheriff says that, you know, he won't do the 287G. It'd be great if there was a written thing saying that rather than just you saying that the sheriff says that. So again, I know that you're not responsible for the sheriff, but as the sheriff's representative, I guess I will make that ask in this public meeting.
Pat?
I would agree with what you just said. I would personally would find it helpful if we put the list in writing of which you spoke to and some others did. We provide written responses. The administrator had stated them. And there's more we could fill out. And he's right. I would agree that ultimately with the power of the purse, meaning our budgets, we have, I'll use the word some influence, even though we can't tell him how to do his job. But the budget gives him the capacity to provide the services to the county. Right now, we're fully staffed with deputies for the first time in a long time, you know, and they're trained. And so for everything that goes on in the county, it's good to have a full complement of deputies that are properly trained. That helps with everything. So we fund that. I think it's helpful for the sheriff's department to hear how the board feels and how the public feels. I think in my nearly 6 years here, they have been responsive to the board and the public in terms of how they would like the sheriff's department to operate, and I appreciate that. I think I can say that we have a sheriff's department that would prefer to have as few people in the jail as possible. Partly from a budget perspective, it's really expensive to have it full, and it's even more expensive if you have to send people to other counties and other places. It's really hard on the budget, and it's not a good use of resources. And we have a sheriff's department and a judge and a DA who understand the human costs of locking people up. I taught for a living, and I was really amazed at the number of students I had that if they were locked up even for a short time, the negative impacts on their support network, you know, as far as paying rent, you know, if they can't go to work and families. And it's just a ripple effect that's really astounding to society as a whole, but their support network in particular. And I believe we have a sheriff's department and a DA and a judge that understand that. So I think putting some of these things in writing, have those conversations are always constructive. And I think it's helpful for the public to see in writing our perspectives on those things.
Elizabeth?
Thank you, Bailey, for speaking out. I like her ideas. I wish there was a way that we could implement these and see if some of these ideas can be stated to our local and area, you know, sheriff's department or whatever. But, you know, like Dan said, we can't tell them what to do or whatever. I, like many, have been affected personally by ICE. My work brothers were taken from their jobs, away from their family, one right before his young, not even 2-year-old child and wife, and in front of customers at a local restaurant. And it has affected everybody here that has eaten there, because it was hard to find another cook, and we finally got another one that can keep up with, you know, the high demand of great food at our local restaurant. My question is how this was handled. Could it be handled in a different way if this would ever occur in our community again? Not to be, if a person that they have I understand this one was a judicial warrant, so it had to be enacted with the sheriff's department. I was not there at the time. I cannot speak for exactly what happened. It was just terrible. When I came to work, I was trying to fight the tears all night. This is my work family. It did affect me personally. Also, if they're like, I think it was one of our persons here had an orange pamphlet. If we could get those orange pamphlets, a copy to every business owner in Ashland, that these people with the language barrier know their rights. What are their rights immediately? And people stopped on the street or going to the grocery store in a different community. What are, we need to protect our immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. That incident at the restaurant was the police department of the city of Ashland, not the sheriff's department, correct? Okay, thanks, Liz. Okay.
Thank you.
And further, the city's corporate counsel did review the warrant before the city helped.
Yeah, I guess just wanted to echo that even if what the county is doing, what the sheriff is doing is like, okay, we're not going to do the 287G. We're not going to do all these things that are like legal and what you're supposed to do. I think there is something to be said for saying that in writing publicly, because the people of Ashland, as Liz just stated, are like scared. This has affected our community. And I think as a community, as elected officials, as the law enforcement of this county, making a statement, writing like we are going to do all of these things that we can legally do, and this is how we are upholding the law, is super important in this climate, in this time, with all the injustice that we've seen in Minneapolis. So I just think that's like really important, even if Ashland County is still doing everything that they had been doing, which is still all good. I think it's really important to vocalize that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Is it Kathleen? Or from 810 MacArthur Avenue? We'll set that one aside for a moment and see. Okay, maybe they had to leave. Ellie Priester?
Hello, again, I'm Ellie Priester. I live on Ellis Avenue in Ashland, Wisconsin. Okay. So I'm echoing Bailey's asks, setting my time here. And yes, I have a statement for you. So the physician was confused as he came upon the scene. He had watched a skirmish escalate when federal agents tackled someone, then opened fire in front of his home. Without thinking twice, he went outside to help whoever was hurt. He pleaded with the barricade of agents to let him through. I'm a physician, he told them. Finally, they let him through, and that's when he found agents turning someone over on their side. He was confused because CPR is given with the patient on their back. He realized they were counting bullet holes. Does he have a pulse? He asked. The agents said they didn't know. He insisted they let him perform CPR. This is from a sworn affidavit from this physician witness. So, folks, as we know, across the political spectrum have been deeply alarmed by the murder of Alex Preddy. We can let alarm make way for despair and fear, or we can let this event flood our hearts towards neighborly love, compassion, and a fierce upholding of rights through local policy, written policy. We don't just owe it to our city to safeguard Ashland residents, their data and city property, but also to the Native nations who are inextricably tied to this land and interwoven in our city communities. Our Native neighbors are being profiled and targeted along with immigrant neighbors and U.S. citizens. Again, the sheriff serves Bad River. Take on the perspective of the physician that day. How would you feel if the attacker, a federal agent, was tallying the wreckage dealt to your neighbor and not offering care, who was trained with a gun, but not trained in taking a pulse? Likely fury would intermingle with the adrenaline as you gave chest compressions. Medical providers always tell us, prevention is the best medicine. They help us make a proactive plan for our health, for our longevity. The decisions this council makes are no different. We entrust you with the proactive short and long-term health of our city. The policy points that were said are all borrowed from other cities' ordinances. If enacted, these policies would say that we refuse to sow suspicion and distrust between local police, sheriffs, and the residents. Reaffirm the county's commitment to the belonging and rights of everyone who lives here. So please enact an unambiguous statement or policy affirming that federal government cannot commandeer our local governments. Enact policy that reflects the high regard we hold for every Ashland neighbor, the high regard in which we hold our Constitution, and the highest standard to which we hold our law enforcement. Policy that tells them we will not think twice before helping our neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, is it Sean? Yep. Thank you.
Hello again, board members. My name is Sean Van Zeelen, living in Ashland. Thank you for holding this public session and considering our input as constituents. It matters a lot. Thank you as well to the 7 brave individuals who voted no to the WCA agreement. The cost of our community harboring such a project is tremendous, and yes, complicated and money's tight. However, it's critical that we do not try and shield ourselves from the costs and repercussions of having projects like this on our landscape. We need to hold ourselves, our community, and our representatives accountable for the decisions made on our behalf. If it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to release this project, we cannot allow Enbridge to quietly sweep that under the rug. We have a special opportunity with our response plan to ICE and Border Patrol to resist oppression of our neighbors, no matter the cost. I would like to ask that the board uses their budget as leverage in helping the sheriff create a policy clearly defining the sheriff department's non-cooperation with ICE, DHS, and Custom Border Patrols, as suggested by our first 2 speakers. I can't claim to have any answers, but all I can do is continue to ask our governing bodies to respond firmly and swiftly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you passed.
Oh,
She's here now.
okay. Is it Kathleen? Thank you.
I'm Kathy Allen, and I want to speak to the issue of ICE. A couple months ago, I went over and met with the sheriff, and it was very cordial and it was before things were getting as hot around here. I was in the Twin Cities a month and a half ago and experienced, I was in South Minneapolis and I wasn't where they were picketing. However, the atmosphere was tense, but so impressive with the population and their response of not the way ICE was behaving. I did come by and leave copies of what the Minneapolis police and city have done in a public policy. I noticed you talked about it. They went through it with all the lawyers and what the responsibilities of local law enforcement is and what the responsibility of the federal government and ICE. And I thought that that was clear. And if you're going to make, hopefully you'll make a policy, but you have a template, not that we've got the number of police or whatever, but it's kind of nice to see it have a program that's already, a policy that's already written with a number of lawyers looking at it on both sides of what is legal. I also would like to say that the peaceful protests in the Twin Cities is marvelous. And I have a person that I know that's a young person, did this once or protested once, and she said she couldn't believe the warmth and the caring she got with the other protesters. And so when you get the news, you need to know that there are people there because they want the citizens in their city and country, their voices heard. And ICE is not a force that does not help destroy a community and communities. I got some numbers that ICE's evidence in the Twin Cities is going to cost the city of Minneapolis $2,300,000 because of their input that they've had on the city. And I thought if we can get ahead of some of that, that would be wonderful. Look at a policy, how could we follow the rules? Some things that I was impressed with, I mean, it's a long whatever, but it's a place to look at. They define what local police does. And I talked to the sheriff months ago. He said his job is to be the sheriff of Ashland County, and that's a full-time job. And that's how I feel about using our police and sheriff's departments, that we're paying taxes for their job to protect us, that we don't get involved with, and it's specific in their policy that they don't get involved in any resources. If there is an issue that's ICE, ICE takes care of it. They don't ask any local enforcement to help. If there is a case where the police have to come in first and arrest someone, they don't use that information if they find out that if they're a non-citizen. They do not pass that information on to ICE because that's not their job. So this is all written down. You can look at it. It would be nice then if that information, if you do make a policy, that the citizens get that information. Personally, I'm offended with what I see in ICE. And one of the most horrible experiences I've had with what they're doing is I turned on the TV when I saw the ICE person push that woman down and fall. I saw it. I saw the other man that got killed going for her like this while it happened. And 2 minutes later, I heard the federal government say that he was waving a gun and all of this kinds of things. So in 2 minutes, they had a story without even knowing anything of what happened. And so having to guard. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
But anyway, I really want us to protect our neighborhood, and I want us to really push back on the federal police force that we don't need here.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is it Val? Val? Yes.
Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm Val, and I've been a resident of Ashland since 1989. I'm a homeowner. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I worked in Bayfield and Ashland County with folks with substance use and mental illness, severe and persistent, until I retired 2 years ago. And I have enjoyed raising my daughter here, gardening, getting to know people, including some of you here. And what I have observed in the last couple months, even here, is there is fear. There is this fear here. And then there's the issues with Enbridge, and there's the issues here, and there's the issues there. And there's just unrest. And we need it. I think this group and the sheriff's department, as people are talking about, can put something in writing that can help us say, okay. And that doesn't mean it's all going to be perfect, and that the federal enforcement whatevers are going to follow whatever we put here. But it lets us know that our local sheriff's department is going to be there for us, the people, and protect our constitutional rights. The other thing I want to say is, as the woman before me stated, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is happening throughout the nation. It is not just Bayfield, Iron, Ashland County, but cities and counties and states throughout the nation are taking action. What are we going to be known for as if the worst happens here? Are we going to be known for oh, I didn't realize it was going to get this bad. Or are we going to be known for, well, we were going to work on that. This is something that is urgent, and I implore you to address this because it does affect. And as Liz was talking about earlier, our mental health and substance use funding is being cut all over the place so that the money can be put into federal enforcement. That's a whole nother subject. But at the same time, are the folks in our community that most need some reassurance from you as county board members and from the sheriff's department are some of those folks. But it's not just them, it's me too. I need reassurance.
Good, thank you.
Just for everybody, Val used to work for the county. And so Val, I just want to thank you for all the good work you did before you retired.
Shay?
Hello again. I'm Shay Schockemeyer. Again, I live in Washburn now, but was a homeowner here in Ashland for the first 10 years or so that I lived in the area. I'm from Milwaukee, and I feel every day a great privilege for being able to live in this area. It's my home now. I'm raising my 2 kids. My mom and her partner live here as well. I intend to live here the rest of my life, and I don't take that for granted. The community here is incredible. The lake is incredible. In my time here, I've had the privilege to also work for both the Bad River and Red Cliff bands. In Bad River, I worked in the Natural Resource Division as their wetland and water program manager. And in Red Cliff, I worked as the food sovereignty coordinator. And I share that because it has allowed me to form really close friendships with folks within both of those communities, friendships that are going to last a lifetime. And through those relationships over the past few months, I have had the privilege of having people share very vulnerable things with me about how they're currently feeling. And I want to echo just how much fear there is right now. For a lot of people, what's happening with ICE and the fear that ICE is in our communities is triggering a historical trauma response that is incredibly real. People have shared previous with me about being children in Bad River and Odena and having Black BIA vehicles driving around in Odena looking for children to kidnap them to take them to boarding schools. Those are current people who are living now, who have experienced that in their lifetime, whose grandmas had to hide them inside their houses here in Ashland County. The connections between ICE and Enbridge are real as well. They're both forms of colonization and racism that continues to happen upon our Native communities here in Wisconsin. And we as white people need to stand up. That's our responsibility. It's your responsibility as public leaders. I echo what's been shared. I also want to bring up something that Bailey included in her talk about the opportunity for you all to not authorize any public buildings or space or resources outside of the sheriff's department towards ICE. That is within your jurisdiction. You have the ability to do that, and that is also incredibly important. This community is like built on love, and that is an incredible part of being a community member here, is just how connected we all are to each other, the deep care that happens. And this is one of those times where like we need to show that. So please do whatever you can to show your support for our community and not your support for ICE. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Nick?
Bonjour. My name is Nick Vanderpie. I live in Mellon, in the Pinokies, or as we're told, it means clean, pure, salubrious Mother Earth. About a month ago, before Minneapolis was invaded, a source of mine in Minneapolis said that there were 150 abandoned cars found on the streets. And the glasses were broken. And most of them were being driven by brown drivers. And one of those brown drivers, an 86-year-old Aztec man who was part of the community, was discovered in a concentration camp in Texas. Now, I know in the military, and I suppose it applies to this group as well, when you sign on to do this job, you make a vow to defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. So I'm a little puzzled here by your head man saying here that you have no control over the sheriff. Well, what happens when a policeman breaks the law? What do you do? Now, I was talking with a former police chief in Madison, David Cooper, 86 years old, decorated Vietnam combat veteran, and an Episcopalian priest. And he tells me there's legal precedent for local jurisdictions to sue and to prosecute federal law enforcement people. So I wonder why we're being so timid here, okay? I was told last week by elders at Bad River, they're terrified about coming into Ashland because they don't want to be picked up. So what are we going to do about that? You know, how are we going to care for these people? When we arrived today, we sang a song. Who's going to keep us safe? Who's going to defend us against what a lot of people are saying is a Gestapo private army of the king? Well, didn't we fight a revolution to get rid of kings a long time ago? So how are we going to enforce the privileges or the rights, for instance, of habeas corpus? And you just can't pick up people in the street and throw them into the back of a meat wagon and take them to a concentration camp. And then have your defender of so-called national security show up, this Kristi Noem, wearing a $60,000 bracelet. And there's about 500 brown people stacked up like cordwood. You ever hear of Auschwitz? You ever hear of Dachau? That's what we're trying to avoid here. And I expect, and I'm going to go and talk to the police about this. I'm grateful that there are police officers here to listen to our complaints. So I'll leave you with that. And I hope you do the right thing and you serve and protect the people of Ashland County. Miigwech.
Thank you, Nick.
Any questions?
Thank you. Is it M. Cardenas? Emma. Oh, it just says EM. M, okay. Are they here that you know of? Oh, okay. Okay, and then Dylan.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Dylan Zidon. I live on MacArthur Avenue, and I'm originally from the Twin Cities area. Going back to the streets that I grew up skateboarding on is terrifying. Seeing the news and the videos of people being murdered in the streets is terrifying. That is a consistent thing among humanity. And I know that there's a lot of legal jurisdiction that I know very little about. But what I do know is that as a board that represents the people of this county, I hope that we do the absolute most to protect our people and make ourselves feel safe. Sitting in the chair after the decision with Enbridge, I wrote something that I'd like to share. I'd also like to share that I am Very grateful for the courage of the people of the board, both yays and nays, for I understand there are many decisions to be played into. Welcome to democracy. It isn't always pretty. Decide the fate of motions, and emotions decide the fate of many. Personal versus public interest. Can you put aside your views? With the power you're entrusted, prove we can trust in you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any other questions? Mr. McKinney?
First, in terms of concerns about the county making a building available to any of the federal law enforcement agents, we're bursting at the seams. We don't have space. We did a space needs study recently. We can't afford more space, so we won't be giving them access to any space. But through this discussion, this recent discussion in the last few minutes on this item, but earlier today, some thoughts on the things that we are facing. We talked about federal law enforcement now. If the pipeline is rerouted or if it goes through the current path, we anticipate workers coming from the outside. We don't know who those workers will be or if federal agents would be interested in them, or some of them. So we may have the issue of how does that get handled? Because as they do the pipeline, other than the public roads, that's on private land. So one of the questions I would like to see if we can investigate is, it's really important that you have law enforcement that's well-trained. A lot of the issues happen when people are not as well-trained as they should be, or if they're not trained at all. So my question or thought is this: would there, if the line is rerouted, would those working there for security be able to carry a firearm? I know in Wisconsin, there's conceal and carry, but is there any way to know in advance if they would be allowed to carry weapons? And if there's some way that we could find so that doesn't happen, all in the interest of trying to make it less likely anything really unfortunate happens?
Chief Deputy Dawson.
Well, my question essentially is this. So we're talking about federal law enforcement. We have a project that may go forward before long. We know there's going to be a lot of people from the outside coming. And so it's possible, that federal law enforcement would be interested in, seeing who's there. But it raises the question in my mind through these discussions today. I don't know what level of training the people working for the pipeline would have, and if they'd be allowed to carry weapons, and if they are anticipating carrying weapons, if there's anything that we can do to be proactive to work with the company to not allow those weapons.
There hasn't been any talk about if they do have security, if they're going to be carrying firearms or the workers. I think that would fall back on their job policies that they've instilled with like Michaels and the subcontractors. As far as we don't do any background checks regarding the workers. We could reach out, I would assume, to the company, see their policies and see if there's anything in place, but we have not heard of any contractor carrying firearms.
So one of the things in a conversation with one of the people that spoke earlier today, and he's gone to more than a few of the pipeline projects to speak against them, he said it's really, really helpful if both sides understand how the other is taking, the different views that occur there. So in places where they understand how those working for the pipeline and local law enforcement are going to view what they're willing to accept or tolerate, et cetera, versus what they're not, it's really helpful to know where those boundaries are, because you're less likely to have something happen. So I think it would be helpful if we could, talk to them in advance and understand what they're thinking, and then have a conversation to see what our response is, and if there's anything we want to ask, that we ask them to modify if we have the capacity to do that.
Mr. Chairman, we're off topic. The agenda item is federal law enforcement, not Enbridge.
Okay. Heather, someone has their hand up. Okay. But if you can identify, if yeah, just, we'll do that online first and then we'll.
I think it's Gracie if you want to speak.
Yes, thank you. I'll be very brief. Buju, my name's Gracie Wakshan. I'm a Bad River tribal member. I'm very grateful for having this moment to speak. Today has been very, very disheartening, but I want to say thank you to the 7 souls who stood with Bad River and with all those who are protecting our water. I also have a question about how this will play out as we see ICE presence in Wisconsin. I worry greatly because what I feel is happening is racial profiling. And as we see, these two issues are combined. So when people go and protest, as is our First Amendment right, I think we can all assume there will be protesters. How can we make sure that the Ashland law enforcement is protecting protesters from all folks coming in? Yeah, I'm just very, very curious, what they will be doing to protect residents of Ashland and other folks that may be at risk for racial profiling as we see ICE and Enbridge join into the population and interact with us.
Yeah. I think as we go farther down the road here, the sheriff's department and the county will have a lot of questions on how we address some of those issues. And so we'll keep those up. Heather, was there somebody else online that nobody raised their hand?
If anybody would like to speak online, please raise your hand. Angela?
I had a question for the sheriff. How much were they offering, the company offering to pay them for law enforcement? And then how connected they are with ICE? 2 questions. Thank you.
Enbridge is not connected with ICE in any way. Because Enbridge they're building a pipeline. ICE is running a completely different operation. As a corporation, they are not connected with ICE. Individual people, I can't speak for individual people.
All right, thank you.
You can come up if you want. Sorry. Thank you.
I'll try to be brief with it. Okay, so like so many here, I'm disappointed by the WCA decision today. I know you did that because you've felt helpless to resist the course engineered and prescribed to us by Enbridge, and because you don't have absolute authority over the county sheriff. And I know why you capitulated, but please do not make the same mistake with federal immigration agents. Ashland County should not be a pawn for large organized companies and agencies that want to exploit this community for its own devices. I'm not a lawyer or an expert in the county's scope of authority, but I urge you to take a stand and exercise the full extent of the authority you do have to resist efforts by the feds to make this county an instrument of its partisan projects in ways that would fracture our community and victimize the people in it. I don't accept this board throwing up its hands and giving up any claim to involvement in how this county deals with this issue. Find a way to exert your authority. And just to reiterate some of the ways you can do that, well, I won't do that because it's already been said a lot. But basically what Bailey had said and Shay also. And then Beth, she wasn't able to speak, so she gave me something to read. Can I read that?
Sure.
Okay. So this is speaking for Beth. So I believe this body is also concerned about continued immigration enforcement actions here. In looking for resources, I found many helpful suggestions in an article, Immigration Enforcement, an overview from municipal governments, in the municipal law newsletter put on by Boardman Clark in their April 2025 issue. I share some of the best here and ask board members to read the full article. Starting off, county officials have the right to object to agent actions that go beyond what is written in the warrant. I would say that county officials have the duty to object. The context of this concern is important. We have never had such an aggressive, lawless, and militarized and funded DHS as we do today. The rapid scale-up of detention centers and agents has been unprecedented, opaque, and outcomes could fairly be called, I don't know, level of enforcement that has broadly lost the support of the people and yet does not stop. One suggestion in the article is to have clear policies in place about what info is collected from local residents seeking services to begin with, to help avoid creating unnecessary records that might later be subject to immigration enforcement requests. Develop clear policies regarding the role of the sheriff in immigration enforcement. Counties should establish and communicate their stance on cooperation with ICE detainers and information sharing. Preparing in advance of these encounters with federal immigration officials by taking simple measures. Establish physical boundaries within municipal localities by marking all non-public areas as private and entry permitted by appointment only, using visible signage. This practice will create a critical legal boundary that immigration enforcement must respect. Designate authority by identifying specific individuals authorized to interact with ICE or other immigration agents, whether it's your administrators, sheriff on a designated team. These designations should be communicated through every county department in advance. Establish clear response protocols for all staff members. Effective preparation for potential immigration enforcement visits requires attention to practical logistics, specific documentation practices, and ongoing training efforts. These preparations can make the difference to chaotic, potentially lawless encounters preventable. Thank you.
Thank you. That's fine.
We're done. Thank everybody.
Yep. No. Denise? Last one, folks.
Thank you, Denise Bosak. I'll be really quick. So as we're hearing everything today, we know what we need to do. We hear it. We need to put it in place. I hear that this area has to take care of this. This area has to take care of that. I hear that we don't have the money to do that. I can say from experience that a few years ago, I needed to stand up. I needed to take away from my job for 6 months to stand what I needed. And I don't make that much money. I'm a school bus driver. So I had to take that time to stand for what I needed. So, and then I had to bring in many people along with me to help stand. So what I'm seeing we need to do is when this entity says they can't do that, or this one says we don't have the money, these people need to come together and work it out and talk about what we need to do. So I encourage you, if you don't have the power to find where you can change the way the board meets, the way the board works, the way you can draw in all these other places, these police, these other counties to work together to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Okay, representing the board, I want to thank everybody that came today and spoke. We have all the comment sheets. We'll get those turned in. The board will look at future items. I just want to say, I have 63 years of elected office, not all consecutive. I have 4 different positions that I've held over the years. And this is really what democracy is. No matter what the outcome of any vote is or so, that's democracy. And we all agree or disagree, and we do the best we can. So I want to thank all the people that came. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department. I want to thank the board for letting this be put on the agenda, and we'll take this on to the next meetings and stuff and see where we can improve ourselves. So with that being said, do we need to close that public session? Okay, so we're all good with closing. So then we need famous motion in the world.
Ron will make a motion, we adjourn.
Ron Cinder makes the motion. Is there a second? Is there Rich
Rich,
Huber.
Rich,
makes a
I'll
second.
second it.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.